Welcome, young economists, to the money market graph. You're going to become one with this graph because it's very important. And so I just want to highlight some of the basic features of this graph when you draw it. Anytime you're dealing with monetary policy of the Federal Reserve, you have to be worried about how it affects interest rates. We should know by now that as interest rates go up, aggregate demand will shift to the left because consumers and investors will balk at paying higher interest rates. They don't want to build a new factory and take a loan at 10% when 2 years ago they could have gotten it at 8%. So this graph shows how interest rates are affected when the money supply moves. Now, the important things to remember about the money market graph would be its nominal interest. The interest rate today, here and now, it hasn't been adjusted for inflation, so it's not real interest rates, it's nominal interest rates. You're going to be using another graph later called the loanable funds market, which is the real interest rate, and you do not want to mix these up. So the money market, nominal interest rates. The money market measures the money supply in a vertical line and money demand, demand down as always, and it's the quantity of money in this system that matters. We have an initial equilibrium rate here of interest rates and the quantity of money at the bottom. Now normally what happens in this graph, it's the money supply that's going to move. So if I were to say, let's say, reduce the reserve requirement, it means banks have basically more money on hand. They don't have to keep as much on reserve, and if they have more money on hand to loan out, what will they do? Well, they'll loan it out, and that means that the money supply is going to change. In this case, when the money supply increases, it's going to shift to the right. We have a new money supply over here because the Federal Reserve has lowered the reserve requirement, which means banks can loan more money out. We put our arrows in here to show it. Money supply is shifted to the right. When that happens, what is the effect on interest rates? Well, it's really kind of simple. Notice the demand curve going down. We have a new equilibrium point for interest rates. The interest rates have now decreased, so interest rates come down. We have a new interest rate, we'll just call it I1. Interest rates have gone down, money supply is shifted to the right. Just the opposite happens if the reserve requirement were to be increased. All of a sudden the bank would have to keep more money on hand in the Federal Reserve, and they'd have less money to loan out, and money supply would just go this way. Interest rates would rise, investment would decline, and away we would go. So let's go over how this thing should be labeled once again. Just like all your other graphs, label equilibrium. Make sure you get your changes in the interest rate. And over here, I forgot to label this MS1 to show the change as well. So we have a new money supply to the right. The Federal Reserve has pushed money in, pushed it into the system when they lowered the reserve requirement. The banks have more money, they loan it out, interest rates drop. Interest rates drop, aggregate demand shifts to the right, we move closer to full employment, and everything is interrelated. It's a bunch of happy, happy, joy, joy with monetary policy.